I was harboring around such, it was something so heavy, and I just knew there was something, a conversation I needed to have with them, and that if I didn't, I could never allow them to be in my life, because there was a grievance I felt like I needed to at least express. And I called my mother up, and my dad gets on the other phone, so they're both on the phone. I was so embarrassed to tell them that I had escorted, that I had did this, because I just didn't want them to be disappointed in me, but at the same time, I wanted them to know this is the decisions I felt I needed to make, because I had no one. All of a sudden, I had no family, and I just made family on the streets. And I was bawling over the phone. I was in tears, crying, and my mom just said, she's like, I'm sorry. She was like, I'm sorry that we weren't there. I'm sorry that you had to go through that. We didn't know any better, and you know, she gave me a very heartfelt apology, and I said to them, I said, I carried anger around towards you because of this. I really needed you at a certain point in my life. I was an adolescent, and all of a sudden now I'm finding where to live. And so I was introduced into the street life, which I graduated high school early. I always came up, and I was in the papers for being in all these different plays, and I just had a certain outlook for my life. It wasn't the street. I was fired from my job because I transitioned on the job. Now, that wasn't the reason, but obviously they come up with whatever they can to fire you. I found myself lost, actually, in a crowd of the street, like in the street crowd, in the sense that I was no longer, I felt, this special kid that could play the piano, that was musically talented, and that could write, and that had all these dreams. All of a sudden now, I was focusing on survival along with everyone else. And it was like, well, girl, this is the life. This is now, your world has changed, and so this is what you've got to get used to. But for some reason, I still wouldn't accept that at first. I wouldn't accept that. So I was working like a sales job, going door to door, selling credit card stuff, and it was a sales job. So I was really working on commission. There was no power. I would wake up at 7 in the morning and come back home at 7 at night, and I would work my tail off, and it still just wasn't happening for me. The place that I lived at, the guy was allowing me to stay there because I was cleaning the building, but he revoked that offer and made advances towards me, and when I rejected the advances, I was now out of place again. And so luckily at that time, my father, my real father, called, and he said, listen, your mother told me that, you know, she kicked you out and that you're having some hard times. You know, if you want to come here and get yourself together, then you know, you're welcome. And so I did. I went to stay with my father. And when I got there, my father pulled out a few bills and a couple things, said, listen, if you're going to be staying here, you know, we got the heat bill that's going to be coming up. We have all these bills. And I don't know if he knew. I think I had mentioned I had got a tax check or something for my taxes, but I wasn't making a lot of money, so it wasn't a lot of money coming back to me. But he started charging me rent to stay there with him. He hadn't paid child support ever. My mom was constantly trying to get him to take him to court to get some kind of financing. And so the fact that he was charging me was just the first kind of blow. I was just like, so I was going to school. I was going to hair school during the day and working at Applebee's at night. And I eventually got fired from Applebee's as well when rumor got out that I was trans. And I fought sent complaint to the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Council. I had witnesses that were willing to testify that I was being harassed on the job. I had a guy pull his genitalia out on me in the kitchen, and it was just in the back. It was just the craziest things were happening to me. But I eventually was fired because I threatened to cut this girl, but it was not even in the realm of that. It was in the fact of I was just even trying to joke just to protect the fact that I was hurt. but the girl had called me by my boy name, and we were in the back kitchen rolling silverware, and I had a butter knife, and I said, "Listen, bitch, you call me that again and I'm gonna cut you," you know. And we all start laughing, and it was just this, but I was just really hurt in the inside, but I'm laughing with them. And so later on, they took it, we were arguing, the girl that was calling me the name, we were arguing, and the manager comes out and says, "You two have been arguing all day, I'm sick of this, you know, you're going to talk to the manager next day." And she goes, "Well, there should be no meeting with the manager, Angelica should just be fired for threatening to cut me." And I just looked at her like, because everyone knew that there was not a real threat, that was just like an off-the-cuff comment, but they took it there and used that to try to fire me. So in the meeting, I said to the manager, I said, "So what about the times that I've complained about being sexually harassed, and I've complained about this and that?" He was like, "Well, I've never heard about this." I told the manager, but I guess it never went to the general manager. So they gave me all kind of recommendations. They said, "Look, we'll recommend you for whatever job you want, whatever," but they had to fire me, is what they said. So because I was fired at that point, I didn't know what else to do. Every job that I took up, I was being fired from. I felt like I was a very capable person, very smart, very driven, but I could not catch a break. And then someone told me, "Hey, there's this woman in South Florida who, you know, if you want to go down there and escort or maybe model and get in the adult industry, you can pay for your breast implants, you can do this, you can do that." It wasn't something I wanted to consider, but I did consider it, and I hopped on a plane to Florida, and I left for my father. I was 21 at the time. And when I went to Florida and I got into that lifestyle, I never worked because it just felt awkward to me. But I probably was in that lifestyle for a total of 3 months before I was just like, okay, I can't continue here. But what was interesting to me, and how I say I count it all joy now, is because the people I came in contact with, I feel again, were people that my energy attracted in the universe. I didn't attract the guys who were drugged up or wanted to cut me or beat me or do this type of thing. But I actually had conversations and got to know people in a way that they felt comfortable talking to. I felt like a therapist. And, you know, some of the girls that I worked around as well, they knew I didn't belong there. And at the same time, no judgment ever came from my end or from their end, but it was that I always, through my own life, tried to send the message that you can do more than this. That, hey, there's nothing wrong with this, and if this is the way you express yourself or make it look, that's fine. But you're only using a portion. You're only using a portion of what you have to offer. And if you just trust and believe in yourself that you have more to offer, that you can. And that's when I enrolled back into beauty school to finish. And I finished beauty school, and I left that world, and I met this man that I ended up in a relationship for 9 years. But when I was in Los Angeles, I was writing From Where You Are, and I just, as a Buddhist, like I'm practicing, but for some reason I still have this sense of despair and like just fatigue from just trying to continue to go and go and go. And I woke up in the middle of the night and these words just came. Actually, it wasn't the words, it was music that came first. I sat in front of the piano and I just started playing and playing and playing and playing. And my roommate comes in, and the song had no words actually right at that first moment. And she came in and she was crying. And she was like, "What were you just playing?" She's like, "Did you just make that up?" And I was like, "Yeah, I just wrote it." She was like, she was like, "I was so swept away the way you were playing because I just emotionally drained myself into the piano." And that's when I knew that this song would be strong. But these words were just kind of echoing in the back of my mind. From where you are, be open, be grateful, be here. Meaning like just from wherever I was, even if it was at a low point in my life, that I thought, you know what, at least be present enough to take on the lessons and if I'm present enough, when I get past these moments, I can look back and know in full experience what I went through and be able to kind of summarize for myself what this all meant for me. But it became a mantra for me. From where you are, I just kept telling myself, from wherever you are, just remember, be open, be grateful for everything that you have. Gratitude was a huge lesson for me, just to know that I didn't have much, but what I did have, if I was grateful for it, I would be given more, you know. But if I'm not grateful in the littlest levels, that's when you don't receive anything more.